Thank you. Well, some people might have to leave early, so you can go and hand it out. And just give me one copy if you don't mind. Thank you. All right. We are going to do... Okay. Anybody want to help me find the 3 principles of the path? I know they're in here. Have to dig them out. Oh, wait a minute. Back page 141. There we go. So just to get an idea of the people that are new here tonight, can you tell me, do you have any experience with studying Buddhism or doing meditation?
Meditation, yes.
Buddhism, no? How about you?
Very little, but...
Right. Was somebody over here? No? Okay. All right. So we'll start out. And it's auspicious, I think, to read a short Lam-Rim text. Even if you don't understand all the meaning of the words, maybe the imprints are there and you'll be inspired, hopefully, eventually, to want to learn what the words mean. But this text, the 3 principles of the path, just to give you the 25-word or less version of that, 3 principles of the path are renunciation, okay? You can think of that as recognizing that ordinary beings like us are in a difficult situation. You know, we're all going to get sick, old, and die, and we're going to have a lot of problems. Now there's going to be fun in between, and there'll be happiness in between, but it'll be very short-lived. It won't last. And what we really want is lasting joy, peace, and happiness. And we're not doing the things that cause that. So we want to learn what those things are. So the very first, this thing, renunciation, is basically this determination to be free of suffering. But if you don't even believe you're suffering, you got no determination to be free of anything. You know, if you think, oh, this is great, I'm having a great time and life is fun. And it is. I mean, this is not to say that good times aren't good, but in the grand scheme of things, they don't last. And we're always like drinking salt water, wanting more, but never being satisfied, which is probably the worst suffering in all of samsara, all of our existence. So that's number 1, is this determination to be free. And then the second principle of the path is what this class is about, which is developing bodhicitta, the altruistic intention to become enlightened based on love and compassion. So bodhi, awakening, citta, mind. So it's sometimes called the awakening mind, the mind of enlightenment. But the essence of it is that, we want to become enlightened in order to help others. And because we want to help others in really meaningful ways, not just, basic necessities, which we need to help them with for sure. Food, clothing, shelter. We need to deal with people's basic necessities first, but they're not going to be not interested in spiritual practice until they have some food in their stomach and a house and a roof over their head and are warm. So anyway, we're looking at trying to help sentient beings not only achieve the basic necessities, but the ultimate happiness of enlightenment. And to do that, we have to get our act together. We have to get enlightened. We have to develop our qualities and eliminate our faults. And there's a way to do that. There's a path to do it. And that's what the Mahayana, the Lam Rim is all about. All right? And then the third principal aspect has to do with emptiness. And, said, very simply, because I always like, one of my friends is, teaches this stuff quite a bit. He says he always likes to tie emptiness into ethics. That sounds weird because we don't usually talk about emptiness in terms of ethics, but it really is true in a sense that if we really think about it, our world is created by our mind. There, if you come up to a red light and you're in a hurry, you get angry, right? The red light is not inherently the cause of anger, is it? It's our mind interpreting that red light as an obstacle to me getting to where I want to be. I'm attached to being at work by such and such a time, and that light frustrates my attachment. That's what causes. So the mind creates everything. Our interpretation, it's not like there's a reality out there that exists independent of our mind. Our mind labels our reality, and we believe in the labels, and we respond to it. So in a real way, our world is created by our mind. And so, we like to think of it as, again, because there's nothing that exists independent of the mind labeling it. Very important point. Nothing exists independent of the mind labeling it. Okay? So, where do the labels come from? Where do if you see your life as kind of average, mediocre, happy, sad, whatever it is, good times, bad, and roller coaster, or whatever it is, how you see yourself in your life, where are the frames of this movie that we call my life coming from if we're really projecting our reality all the time? It comes from our past actions of body, speech, and mind. Now, for you to be able to know that this is a cup, only is possible because somebody told you in the past it was a cup, right? Right? So that's easy to see how past imprints enable us to see the reality that's in front of us. But as Buddhism says, everything is created by our past imprints. Our happiness, our misery, our very life is the projection of our past imprints based on choices we've made. So if you want to see your life as going well, and if you want your movie to be have a happy ending, so to speak, if you want to have the whole thing be happy from start to finish, then it's to our advantage to practice virtue, period. I mean, this isn't thou shalt or the Ten Commandments. It's just how reality is constructed. Virtuous actions result in happiness and good feelings. Non-virtuous, self-centered, selfishly motivated actions ripen into suffering and misery. And so the picture that we see is ourselves suffering, ourselves unhappy, miserable. And if we want to see that picture, if we want the movie to basically, if we really want to see ourselves in paradise, we have to create the causes for that. And the causes for that are simply virtuous actions, that is, actions that don't harm others. So, we have a whole list of them, but there are 84,000 mistakes, so there are 84,000 ways to not make mistakes. And, of course, compassion, wisdom, kindness, and love, and so forth are all good things, good motivations to have in our mind. And those are things that we need to cultivate. So that's emptiness, is that there's no reality existing independent of our mind labeling it. Okay? Our world is empty of any fixed, objectified reality out there. Everything depends upon causes and conditions, the parts that come together to make it what it is, and then our mind that labels it. The most profound aspect of that is that our mind creates our world. And if we don't tend to our mind, there's no way we're going to be happy. We can have moments of joy and, fun, excitement, but that's not what in our heart of hearts we want. We want something that's enduring, that's lasting, that joy. And so this is the claim of Buddha Dharma, is that we can do that. So that's what, in a nutshell, this prayer is about. So we'll read through this. It's only about 10 pages long. I'm just kidding. 4 or 5 pages. Okay. I bow down to my perfect gurus, the essential meaning of the victorious one's teachings, the path praised by all the holy victors and their children, the gateway of fortunate ones desiring liberation. This I shall try to explain as much as I can. Those who are not attached to the pleasures of circling samsara, who strive to make freedom and endowments meaningful, who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones, you fortunate ones listen with a calm mind. Without the complete intention definitely to be free from circling, there is no way to pacify attachment, seeking pleasurable effects, and by freedom of cyclic existence, embodied beings are continuously bound. Therefore, at the very beginning, seek renunciation. Freedom endowments are difficult to find, and life has no time to spare. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearances of this life is reversed. By thinking over and over again that actions and their effects are unbetraying, and repeatedly contemplating the miseries of cyclic existence, attractions to the appearances of future lives is reversed. When by having trained in that way, with no arising, even for a second, of attraction to the perfections of cyclic existence, and all day and night the intention seeking liberation arises, then the thought of renunciation has been generated. Even if renunciation has been developed, if not possessed by the mind of enlightenment, it does not become the cause of the perfect bliss of unsurpassed enlightenment. Therefore the wise generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. Swept away by the current of 4 powerful rivers, tied by the tight bonds of karma so hard to undo, caught in the iron net of self-grasping, completely enveloped by the total darkness of ignorance, endlessly reborn in cyclic existence, ceaselessly tormented by the 3 sufferings, thinking that all mothers are in such a condition, generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. In short, like the mother whose cherished son has fallen into a pit of fire, and who experiences even 1 second of his suffering as an unbearable eternity, your reflection on the suffering of all mother sentient beings have made it impossible for you to bear their suffering for even 1 second, and the wish seeking enlightenment for their sake arises without effort. Then you have realized the supreme precious mind of enlightenment. Without the wisdom realizing ultimate reality, even though you've generated renunciation in the mind of enlightenment, you cannot cut the root cause of circling. Therefore, attempt the method to realize dependent arising. One who sees the cause and effect of all phenomena of both cyclic existence and the state beyond is forever unbetraying, and for whom any object trusted in by the grasping mind has completely disappeared, has at that time entered the path pleasing the Buddhas. If the appearance of dependent relation, which is unbetraying, is accepted separately from emptiness, and as long as there is seen as separate, then one has not realized the Buddha's intent. If these 2 realizations are happening simultaneously without alternation, when merely seeing dependent relation is completely unbetraying, the definite ascertainment comes that completely destroys the way all objects are apprehended as truly existent. At that time, the analysis of the ultimate view is complete. Furthermore, appearance eliminates the extreme of existence, and emptiness eliminates the extreme of non-existence. If you realize how emptiness manifests in the manner of cause and effect, then you are not captivated by a wrong notion holding extreme views. In this way, you realize exactly the vital points of the 3 principal aspects of the path. resort to seeking solitude, generate the power of effort, and quickly accomplish your final goal, my child. Okay. Let's start out with a little meditation. And sit up straight. If you're in a chair, it is very tempting to lean back, I have to admit. But you're actually better off if you can get your mind, if you lean a little bit forward in the chair. And so your spine is straight, like, checkers stacked one on top of the other. And you want to have both feet flat on the floor, and your hands can be in your lap. You can have this sort of, right hand on top of the left hand, forming like a little triangle there, and then have the two thumbs right at the level of the navel. And your arms, you want your shoulders kind of back and down, your arms slightly away from your body. Your tongue at the resting in the roof of your mouth, and you can have your eyes slightly closed or slightly open. Wherever you find most comfortable. And then start out with taking 3 exaggerated breaths. And as you exhale, just relax and let go of any thoughts or any tension in the body and any discursiveness of the mind. Just let it go. And this particular kind of meditation is just to focus the mind on the breath. And sometimes it's easier. It is definitely easier for most people to count the breath. And it's even easier if you count every inhalation and exhalation. So you breathe in, 1, out, 2, in, 3, out, 4. And so forth. You can do that, and you'll notice, you may notice the rising and falling of the abdomen, or the sensation of the breath at the tip of the nose, or just the whole thorax as it expands and contracts. But in any case, you want to notice how your body is responding to the breathing, and then you want to count up to 21. And when you get there, if you get there, you go back to 1. If you lose track after 3 breaths, you go back to 1. But the key here is just to bring your mind back again and again if it gets distracted, and try to keep it focused. Now without counting, just watch the breath without making any notation of in and out, or just notice that you're breathing. Keep your mind focused on the experience of breathing. And notice how not only is your breath changing from moment to moment, it's in a constant state of flux, changing in breath, out breath, but just notice how your body, the sensations in your body are constantly, moment to moment, changing. And that the sounds that you can hear are constantly in a state of flux, change. And notice how your mind is just never stops going, just changing constantly. That's just the nature of the mind, is to change. Whatever feelings that you might have, they change. The conversation in your brain, your mind changes from moment to moment. Just notice that. Now the goal of our, the motivation, you might say, for everything we do at Kadampa Center really is to help train our mind in wisdom and compassion. It's all aimed at that. All this fantastic art behind us, and all the things that seem so exotic and maybe don't resonate with your things that you would be attracted to necessarily. They all have meaning, and the meaning is to help our mind. So if it helps your mind, great. If it doesn't help your mind, you can just leave it. But everything in this center is aimed at one purpose, is to help us tap into our potential as human beings for wisdom and compassion and altruism. And the goal, the ultimate goal, is to become enlightened. It sounds so far out there. It's not, we don't even think we can find even happiness for a day. And to talk about enlightenment where there's no suffering and all of our good qualities are developed to the nth degree, where none of our faults show up and all of our good qualities, wisdom, compassion, loving kindness, power, skillful means, all the qualities of a Buddha are fully developed. We don't think we have that potential, but we do. We do have that potential. We just haven't done the work to tap into it. And so that's the motivation for everything we do here, is to become a Buddha, to experience, to realize our full human potential as a sentient being, in order to be able to help others. So how can we best help others? Get our act together, develop ourselves, develop our qualities. That's the goal. Helping others. The method to do that is one's own enlightenment, which is a process. Can take more than one lifetime, can take many lifetimes. It's possible to make it happen, to get there in one lifetime, but it takes a heroic effort. Heroic effort. So we want to do the best we can. We want to make sure we plant the seeds for future happiness. And now last week we talked about equanimity, this level mind, this even-mindedness toward the so-called friend, stranger, and enemy. Right? The friend is someone we're attached to, and so we bring to mind somebody like that, and we allow that mind of attachment. Like, oh, I just love her so much, I love him so much, they're so great, they're so this, they're so that. We just, the compliments that we have for these people are endless, and we feel genuinely attached, and maybe love them also, but it's alloyed with attachment, and so we allow that to arise for the friend, attachment, and we examine that, and we notice how it feels. It's usually pleasant in the beginning, and then we start looking at it. Well, how can we lessen our attachment to the friend? Because we're not trying to turn the friend into an enemy. We're just trying to see them in a realistic way so that we can lessen our attachment. Because attachment, it by nature overestimates the positive qualities of anything it wants. And what it wants is anything that's delicious, attractive, anything that we label as desirable. We overestimate its good qualities, and we underestimate the negative qualities. So we can look at the friend, two different ways. One way would be to notice that these relationships are impermanent, that the friend of today could be the enemy of tomorrow. The only reason they're a friend now is because we exchanged some nice conversation, and then maybe we spent more time with them, and we liked them even more, and on and on, and so they now get the label friend. But we know if we examine our experience, there are plenty of people that we have called friend that are now, we don't even see them anymore. They're almost like a stranger, or we even think of them as an enemy, somebody that we feel aversion toward. Our ex-spouses or lovers or partners or friends or whatever, we who cheated on us or did things that we didn't like. They are not our friend, but they were at one point. So these relationships are not fixed. And then another way to think about it is in past lifetimes. And this, you have to open up a little bit and just inviting you to creatively align with this notion of beginningless mind, that there's no mind, there's no time in where the mind began, right? Even in this life, the mind of today is connected to the mind of yesterday, was preceded by the mind of 2 weeks ago, 10 years ago. The mind of when we were like 1 day old is also connected to this mind. The mind going back into the womb also was preceded by former moments of mind. And there's no time that we can say, oh, there's where mind began. Even at conception. In Buddhism, we think the cause of the body is the sperm and the egg. That's form. But consciousness is formless. So it had to be preceded by something similar nature. And so it was preceded by a former moment of mind. So that had to come from a previous lifetime. And so we think logically like that. That's how we encourage ourselves to open up the, our mind to the potential, the possibility of past and future lifetimes. So we look back and we see that this mind is connected to some former lifetime and previous lifetimes before that and countless previous lifetimes. And in every lifetime, we had to have a mother, right? And we're going to do this in another meditation in a minute. But we see that in past lifetimes, we've been in every possible relationship with everyone. So this friend has been my worst enemy in past lifetimes. Has cut me up into little pieces. And, they torched me and done all kinds of mean things to me in previous lifetimes. It's possible. So in this lifetime, because of a few kind words, they became my friend. And number one is it won't last. How long it lasts is a question. And it's in a constant state of change. It could easily change into stranger or enemy. Just some careless speech. And this person that we call our friend, mostly our friends don't criticize us, right? And point out our flaws. That's why we call them friend, right? Because they're nice to us. But so in a way, you could say this person is a friend of my ego, my self-centered egocentricity, my worst enemy. Oh my gosh. Is the friend of your worst enemy, your selfish, self-centered, egocentric way of thinking, is the friend of that really your friend? So again, you look at this person, and the point is not to turn them into an enemy or anything, but just to see them in a realistic way. Yes, they have positive qualities. Yes, they have negative qualities. See them in a balanced way. And let go as much as possible of this attachment, and see them in a more neutral way. Because what we want to develop is equal regard for the three categories of beings. That's equanimity. That's the foundation of everything we're talking about from now on to the rest of the class, and even beyond. It's the foundation of all good qualities, this mind of equanimity. Then you look at the stranger, and you think, okay, that's changeable. All my friends used to be strangers, and my enemies used to be strangers. We look at strangers with indifference, but only a few kind words or a few careless words can turn that person into a friend or an enemy. And they all, in past lifetimes, the so-called stranger has been our dear mother in past lifetimes and took incredibly good care of us. And has also been like our worst enemy. But in this lifetime, we don't even notice them. We have no feeling whatsoever. It's blank indifference. It's definitely you and me. We're not even connected. We don't even get that there's a connection. And so we feel indifference. You know, we don't say this, but we really don't care whether they live or die. We wouldn't really say that, but that's kind of how we are. Our mind works. And then we turn our mind to somebody that we don't particularly feel fond of. It could be a political figure right now. A lot of people could bring somebody to mind in that category. Could be anybody. And you think of, and you allow your mind of aversion to arise for that person, and then you know, again, to develop equanimity, we need to let go of that aversion, because what we want to do is get enlightened for the sake of all sentient beings, not just the ones we care about and think of as near and dear. And so again, we go back to these two things that we can think about. One is impermanence, the changeability of these relationships, that a few kind words can turn an enemy into a friend. You know, wasn't always an enemy. Could have been a friend before. It's not a fixed label. We think of it when we see this person walk into a room, we immediately have negative feelings. They just instantly there. As soon as we, you know, encounter this person, we have negative feeling. The feeling is bad or negative. We don't have any choice in how we feel about this person as soon as we see them. In the next moment, though, we don't have to follow the mind of aversion. We always go negative feeling, must be something wrong with that person, right? And then we start making up a story about them. They're very impermanent. These relationships are impermanent. You know, there's no so-called enemy that has always and will always be the enemy. But right now, it is the case. And if we, again, play the past lifetime game and creatively align with the possibility, well, in past lifetimes, this so-called enemy has also been my enemy, but has been my dearest friend. You know, has taken great care of me, has actually been my mother, and has, you know, fed me with, at that time, the consciousness with the female body, and that female body fed me and took care of me and allowed me to actually have a precious life. Again, the point is to lessen the aversion we feel for the enemy, for this person. The word enemy sounds too strong sometimes for us, but we can definitely relate to people we dislike, or people that just the sight of them just, you know, brings the mind of aversion. That's what we're talking about. So we're trying to lessen that mind of aversion and come to a more neutral space. We're looking at them in a positive light. Changeable nature, past lifetimes, and also other ways we can think about them is that that they're suffering just like we are. The reason they behave that way is because of their delusions. They're no different than we are. They just behave out of their they just are their minds pervaded by delusions. Anger, jealousy, pride, hatred, all of that stuff that we also have in our mind. And we need, how do you develop patient endurance? There's no happiness in this life without patience. No happiness. Impossible. If the slightest little thing sets us off and anger erupts, no way is that person going to be happy. Be happy as long as everything's great, but that's not life, is it? Life is like a roller coaster, up and down. And who teaches us patience? Certainly not our friends, usually. It's the so-called enemy. We need people like this. They're like our ticket to enlightenment. We need difficult people in our lives to teach us, to test our inner strength and to teach us where we're weak and to help us develop this inner quality of patient endurance. And then from a karmic perspective, if they harmed us, it's just our own former actions coming back to us. They just happen to be the vehicle by which the karma returns. We killed them in the last, we were mean to them in the last lifetime, some former lifetime, who knows when. Now, boom, they're showing up in this life, and they're mean to us. It's our karma. It's not that we're to blame. It's just gravity. Karma's like gravity. It just is. What goes around, comes around. Simple, like a boomerang. It's not personal. So if we have experienced suffering things, we're not bad or wrong, and it's not even us that did it. It's some karmic seed planted in a former lifetime, ripening in this lifetime. You can say, well, it wasn't me that did it. How come I'm having to experience this negative karmic fruit? Well, it was placed, that negative seed was placed on your mental continuum at some point in the past. And in that lifetime, the name could have been Jim or Sam or Josie or whatever. But it's still your mental continuum that's ripe, that's having these experiences ripen now. Kind of interesting. And so we let go of this aversion, this fixed notion, this label, oh, they're so bad, I hate them. We try to see them in a more equanimous way, in a more neutral, with neutral regard. And we look at all three categories of beings, the friend, the stranger, and the enemy, and we realize they are just like me. They want to be happy, and they do not want to suffer. Interesting. They're just like me. They just want to be happy, and they don't want to suffer. Now, we have some bizarre ways of going about doing that, don't we? Even to the point of killing oneself to stop suffering. Suicide. I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer. Suicide looks like happiness. When you're depressed, completely depressed, and people kill themselves out of that motivation, that looks like happiness, because it's the end of suffering. But it's not. It's just the end of this life's suffering. The mind goes on to future lives and future suffering until we get off the train, get off the Ferris wheel, the merry-go-round of samsara. So this is equanimity, this balanced mind, where we're going to get enlightened for the enemy, we're going to get enlightened for the strangers, who are countless, and we're going to get enlightened for our friends. And we'll have equal regard for all three categories of beings. Venerable Rupa Rinpoche, in that book on how to develop bodhicitta, I don't know how many of you read it, but he's talking about this meditation. He says if you just did this meditation for years, you would not have wasted your time. He says it is that powerful, that helpful for your mind. And then when you go out and on the street and stuff, you start noticing how you're labeled. You look at somebody who's attractive, and you immediately, think that, you're immediately attached to some attractive person. And then some homeless person shows up, and the mind of aversion is there. And then these other people that that are kind of faceless, you feel indifference toward. And we do it all day long, and catching ourselves being attached, feeling aversion and indifference, and then bringing to mind these different points and developing a more equanimous mind toward the people that we're attached to. Thinking, you know what, that could change any minute. You know, and in 75 years, he's not going to look that good. And she's not going to look that good either. And then, you know, things can change. So you just work with your mind to develop equanimity. We're almost out of time. I'm just kidding. There's time left to do this last little bit. So the 7 point. Who wants to be my scribe? Robbie, would you mind scribing? Okay. So the first step before you meditate on the 7 point cause and effect instructions. So it's, all right, so put down recognizing all POCs as ones, of all sentient beings. Who knows what sentient being means? What?
Very in touch with other people's feelings and your own feelings.
Well, it's a good, sentient, I looked it up one time. It means capable of feeling. So yeah, anybody who's capable of feeling, which could be, certainly it's insects are capable of feeling, and even under the microscope, sometimes, if you stick a needle in a cell or so, a little tiny cell or whatever, it kind of like recoils. So even on the microscopic level, there are things that seem to be capable of feeling. All right, recognizing all sentient beings as one's mother. This is the 7, he didn't put 7 point cause and effect, but it's actually 6 causes and 1 effect, but we'll do that. Number 2, recognizing the kindness of mother sentient beings. And then number 3 is repay.
So bees. That's bees.
Thank you, Roy. You're funny, Robbie. Repaying their kindness, number 3. We need to have somebody needs to come up with a good crossword, Dharma crossword puzzle. What are the, repaying their kindness is what? Okay, number 4, affectionate love. Number 5, great compassion. Number Number 6 is the extraordinary intention. You can think of that as like an attitude of universal responsibility. That's another term that is thrown around. By the way, you can get this book on your smartphone too. All right. Then this number 7 is about generating Bodhichitta. Okay, so, all right, well, let me stop for a moment and see if anybody has any burning questions before we launch into this. There are two, let me, go ahead. Yeah, let me stop. Questions? Yeah.
So in the equanimity meditation, when you do it every day, I ran out of people to use. So is it okay to use the same people?
Oh, yeah. The whole point is not the people. The whole point is to allow, I mean, once you can notice the attachment arising, you can forget about the person. What you want to work with is the feeling, the pleasant feeling, the attachment. You want that sort of, most people don't think of attachment as destructive, but it is. We want that emotion or that feeling to arise in the mind, and then we want to start, beginning to come up with reasons. It's sort of like I do this with people that, anybody here smokes cigarettes? Any former nobody would dare raise their hand, would they? All right, well, let's pretend like you did or whatever. It's so uncool to do it now, but a lot of people do. But anyway, so when I deal with my daytime job is as a family doctor, so I have patients that are, hooked on, that still smoke, and I go, you gotta get, pardon?
That vaping thing?
Oh, vaping too, yeah. Oh, that's another one. Oh, I don't smoke anymore. I vape. Okay. Whatever. It's not good for you either, by the way. But anyway, you talk to people, you say, well, when they see, because my mother smoked till she was 70. She started when she was 12. She was raised on a tobacco farm, so she didn't, that's just how it was back in the day. And she said it was like giving up her best friend. Her cardiologist said she had a problem with her heart and she had to give it up. And anyway, she was so addicted to it. But I tell people, I say, look, when you see that cigarette, or it could be a person, or it could be food, candy, or chocolate, whatever your addiction is in the moment. But let's just say, you see that cigarette, that you think, oh, that's so good. It relaxes me, and it does look so cool. It used to, anyway, back in the day, when you smoked. And it's sort of part of your bad boy routine anyway, or bad girl routine. So you can think of all the reasons that you enjoy it. I just like it. It makes me feel good. I mean, I had a lady I saw last week. She shocked me. She's in her late 70s now, and she stopped smoking. I couldn't believe it. After all these years, they told her she had lung cancer 10 years ago. She kept smoking. She had COPD like you wouldn't believe. She was on inhalers like 3 times a day and nebulizers, kept smoking. And then 6 months ago, she just out of the blue stopped. And I said, why did you stop? I was really shocked. I was going, why did you give it up? She says, I just decided to give it up. Well, that's okay. But anyway, when we overestimate the positive qualities of something, what do? We underestimate the negative qualities, you might say, or the negative aspects of that thing. So I say, look, I told her, I tell people that smoke, I say, look, you think it's just delicious and wonderful and blah, 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 but let's look at the negative side of it. It costs a fortune now to smoke. It stinks. People think you're as weak. It causes cancer and heart attacks like you wouldn't believe. And and it makes other people sick too, by the way. And you can go on, you can come up with a list of things that are negative about cigarette smoking. But when you're smoking that cigarette, and you're about a third of the people in our medical office smoke. They're all outside. I go outside and say, "Can I have a cigarette, please?" And they laugh at me because I've never smoked one. But anyway, they're out there smoking. So, when you see the negative aspects of smoking and how we tend to exaggerate the positive qualities of the thing we're attached to and underestimate the negative qualities. So then you focus on the negative stuff. Okay, to lessen our attachment, to lessen the attachment, you focus on the negative side of cigarettes. And so you think, okay, well now, if you tried to give up cigarette smoking just out of willpower and you still thought it was wonderful and you weren't focusing on the negative aspects of it, you wouldn't be successful, would you? Willpower has been shown time and time again not to work. But if you can use wisdom, the wisdom, you see it as it is. It has positive qualities, but it has negative qualities. And you need to focus on that to lessen your attachment to that. It's like if your girlfriend or boyfriend, who you're so attached to, tells you they have AIDS, all of a sudden you went like this, whoop, maybe you can get back, but at least now you have a more realistic view because it was there already, but now you're aware of it. Okay, so the so-called friend, we want to have a realistic view of them and to get to the point of equanimity, and the same thing with the enemy. Pardon? You can use anything.
Anything that you have attachment to.
Yeah, but we're talking people now. So any people, your children, friends, family, but whoever you're most attached to, as long as you can for some people, Donald Trump ticks them off every day of the week. So it wouldn't be, you'd never run out of any ammunition there to think about him if he was your bad guy. But some people like him, so he might be over here for some people. But anyway, so you just want attachment to arise for that person, and then you work seeing the impermanence of that relationship and how in past lifetimes they, it was every which way. And so now you have a more equanimous attitude toward the friend. You realize it's not going to last. Nothing lasts. But eventually we'll all die and our friends will go their way, or they may predecease us, but nothing lasts. So we kind of get a realistic attitude about that. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're running out of time here. I want to touch on the recognize all sentient beings as mother. Maybe we should make this into a meditation. And so you can glance up here, but just take a 2-minute break, and this would be a good, if you're bored, this would be a good time to leave. If you want to stick around, you can do this last meditation. We go on about 20 minutes. We'll finish pretty close to on time, I think. Okay. Geshe-la's leaving for India soon, or Argentina. He's going to Patagonia again, I believe.
That's exciting.
Yeah, he's been there before.
Does he speak Spanish?
No. But his students there, they speak good enough English.
Downtown Raleigh.
All right.
God, how's he feeling? He was sick?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen him. I haven't heard
Yeah,
from him.
Bert is feeling better.
Okay.
I love the room, and I know I can plan very well, like it's in perfect location, but I feel a little public. I know. They wouldn't sit still for the turkey. I have 2 little cubs.
So one of the things that I mentioned was the beginningless lifetime. So this really can be helpful to, open your mind up to past lifetimes. And so that's, You can't this meditation that we're getting ready to do totally depends. For you to be successful with this, you have to be at least creative. You can at least be able to creatively align with the notion of past and future lifetimes, because we're talking about recognizing all sentient beings as has been our mother in past lifetimes, countless times, and so forth. And then remembering their kindness in past lifetimes and so on. So it's really helpful. Now the other method for developing bodhicitta, which is equalizing and exchanging self with others, does not depend upon, a strong belief or faith in past lifetimes. And we'll, at the end of the class, we'll do meditation that combines both methods. We'll do basically 11 different steps leading to development of bodhicitta. This is one of the unique features of the Galupa tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, and it's is Lama Tsongkhapa's genius of combining these two, so that people can have a more profound, deeper taste of bodhicitta, can develop it more quickly. So, those of you who are coming back in, please come in and we'll get started. So this is going to be another one of those guided meditations. So start out by taking the 3 exaggerated breaths and bringing your awareness into your breath. If you choose to count your breaths, you can do that. So based on this foundation that we've created of equanimity, we're going to build this palace of bodhicitta, which is a state of mind that we work to develop. Our aim is to help others, and the method is to get enlightened. And we just can't make that mind arise without a cause. The causes these meditations are the causes for the arousal of the mind of bodhicitta. And so the outcome that we're shooting for is the most helpful state of mind we could ever possibly develop. So important for our happiness. And as we're aiming to help others, our happiness comes along as a byproduct. Without even trying for our own happiness while striving to help others, our happiness just happens. And not just happens, but it goes from joy to joy to joy. So it's definitely worthwhile to try to do the work to develop bodhicitta. Now, the foundation is what we just poured, called equanimity. It's smooth and strong and can hold this palace of bodhicitta that we're getting ready to construct. And so the first meditation in this is recognizing, again, that mind is beginningless, and in every lifetime we had a mother, and that so all living beings even insects, even, every sentient being throughout all space and time. And we can only see humans and animals, right? And fish and whatever, but there are only certain things that we can see. There are actually things we can't see, but that are sentient beings. But we only see a small part of the universe of sentient beings that are described in the Buddhist literature, in the Buddhist teachings. But but all living beings, all sentient beings have been our mother in past lifetimes. We had to have a mother every time we were born. 15 lifetimes ago we had to have a mother. 1 million lifetimes ago we had to have a mother. 1 zillion lifetimes ago we had a mother. And sentient beings are countless, and time is beginningless. So this is pretty wild, this whole notion that all beings have been my mother, not just once, but countless times. So you start out by thinking about the people in this room maybe, and your family and friends. Oh, he was my mother, she was my mother. That dog was my mother, that spider was my mother. Like that. All living beings have been like family. And so we focus on this and extrapolate that notion of mother, that label mother, to every living being that we encounter. Lama Yeshe, who is the founder of the FPMT, whenever he met anybody, he called them dear. He called them dear. And it was a label. It was like a dear mother, a precious, dear sentient being, kind mother sentient being. You hear many teachers talk about that, the kind mother sentient beings. So next time you're walking down the street, just label, don't say it out loud, but label everybody mother. Think, they were my mother in a past lifetime. He was my mother, she was my mother. Like that, just faceless people that you see as you walk down the street. It's said that when you do this practice well over time and develop an experience of it, whenever you encounter another living being, you feel a connection. That's the point, to feel a connection. And the next step is to remember the kindness of the mother. So we think of, usually, most people, not everybody, has had a mom in this lifetime that took care of them. At the very least, she gave you your body and carried you for 9 months and gave you an opportunity to play the game of life. So whether you like her or dislike her, she did that. And, that's huge. That's a big deal. No matter what else, no matter what other stories you might have about her. But usually we use the mother as the example, but it could be your father, it could be a grandmother or some other person that was your primary caregiver, who was kind to you. And you think of like, okay, my mom of this life, she conceived me, and that was partly for her pleasure, but also she carried me for 9 months in her body and took care of herself for those 9 months and took vitamins and tried not to hopefully smoke or take drugs or do anything that might harm me. And then when I was born, she usually went through a tremendous amount of pain. not only is it uncomfortable, particularly during the last trimester, where you can't sleep and you're always rolling over and you've got this huge bowling ball, off the front of, that's keeping you just very uncomfortable. Most women have lots of difficulty with sleeping and heartburn and back pain, and you could just name it during the last part of the pregnancy. But then finally, she goes into labor and endures all of that pain to bring you into this world. And no matter how uncomfortable she'd been and how much she vomited during the first trimester and how much sleep she lost the whole pregnancy and blah, 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 as soon as she sees you, she forgets it. She's so happy, so joyful. Like, there's my baby. There's my baby. That this precious living, human beings that I've been working to bring to life. Here she is, or here he is. So no matter what suffering, forgot about it. And then she fed you with her breast milk, probably, maybe not, but fed you, changed your poopy diaper, kept you alive when you wouldn't have lived a day without your mom. She ignored you, you wouldn't have made it through a day, maybe two, max, So, kept you alive, and then fed you, bought you clothes, showed you off to other people, told all kinds of lies about you to, created negative karma in your name. But anyway, my kid's so great, blah, blah, blah. And then, then she took you to school, and that first day of school, her heart was breaking because she knew this was the beginning of finally having to let go completely. And then all the way through school, whenever you sat down to breakfast, if you were eating pancakes and you wanted another pancake, she'd give you hers, right? She made your lunch, she took care of you, she took you here, there, and everywhere. And then you got to be a teenager and you ignored her and she still loved you no matter what. And then when you left to go to school, if that's what your next step was, after high school, she helped you get everything ready and sent you on your way and kept in touch and so on. And then you got married, and every step along the way, your mother has been there with you and for you. And even today, if your mother's still alive, if there's one, usually, and I'm saying not every case, but usually if there's one person that would stand up for you no matter what, it'd be your mother. These guys, these people in prison that are there for mass murders and, really horrific crimes, usually their mother can't believe their child did that. They're in disbelief. I said, no, that's not my child. My child wouldn't do that. Their mom still loves them, no matter what they've done. So the point is to develop some sense of is the precursor for compassion, right? We talked about this. If somebody's suffering and you don't feel love or you don't feel close to them, then either you have no feeling at all, or you might even rejoice if the person is an enemy. You go, oh gosh, good, I'm glad he got it. You know, he deserved what he got. So, for us to develop compassion, we have to have this affectionate love. So then compassion is the next step that arises from recognizing, that we're all of us are suffering. All of us have problems. The three sufferings of pain and change and pervasive suffering that we talked about in earlier classes. Of sickness and old age and death. And dying again and again, and being born again and again. And meeting leads to parting. High position leads to low position. We meet difficult situations again and again and again. And we have to be parted from pleasant situations again and again and again. And it's not satisfactory. It leaves us unhappy and dissatisfied. And we're all in the same boat. So our kind mother sentient beings, we think, how nice it would be if you could be free of suffering and its causes. How nice it would be if you could be free of suffering and its causes. Then you think, may you be free of suffering and its causes. May you be free of suffering and its causes. And we think in this for universal living beings that we're connected to and that we feel affectionate love toward. This is compassion. And then the next step is I will lead you on a path that leads to the cessation of suffering and its causes. And this is the supreme wish, this extraordinary intention, universal responsibility. I'm personally responsible for the happiness of all sentient beings throughout all space and time. I will lead them to the end of suffering and its causes. And then bodhicitta is the method, because we know we can't do it. So we have to become, who can do it? Only a Buddha. Only a Buddha, only a fully enlightened being, only someone who has realized their potentials and eliminated their faults can do it. And we, you and I, we have that potential. We can do it. We can actually become Buddhas. We have Buddha potential. We're not talking about something we can't do. This is something we can do through effort and training of the mind. So our goal is supreme enlightenment in order to help others. We want to help others. We really want to help others in profound, meaningful ways, guiding them from their present state of misery and dissatisfaction to the bliss of supreme happiness called enlightenment. We want to do that in our heart of hearts. But we realize we don't have that ability now, but we do have that potential. And so we make it strong determination to become enlightened for others. And it is based on love and compassion. Okay, let's do dedication prayers. I have homework here that I handed out. This is class 2. We might have to extend this course. Page 246 is the dedication prayer. The dedication is something we do here all the time too. Those of you who are new, maybe not so new, but dedication is something that where we want to put a seal on it. We want to give a positive direction to our to the energy that we've generated here individually and collectively. So we want to dedicate this energy to the supreme enlightenment of all beings. So we'll read this together. May all beings everywhere plagued by the sufferings of body and mind obtain a notion of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with the mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, all then I too remain, to dispel the miseries of the world. Amen. So thank you for your attention, and so we meet again next Monday, and the following Monday is Easter Monday, actually, right after Easter, and then there's I think maybe one more Monday after that. Is that right? Whatever Erin says, she's the big boss. Pardon?